The world must remain united.
Without fear of the damn city, our Earth will devolve back into the mess it used to be. We need it to maintain peace and prosperity for everyone.
They assassinated the president! Arrest them! Traitors!
Konami has managed to single-handedly ruin the Contra franchise and bugger up a twin-stick shooter. Don't worry, old Coop's got you. Okay, let's start with Resogun, a classic from a classic game producer and developer known as Housemarque. Now, I reviewed this game in 2015, my god.
Weapon power up. Fuck you and your splaining!
Resogun is from the world famous Housemarque. They've got a few games on this list, obviously, and of course it features 2-player. All of these games are going to be indie and they're all going to feature offline 2-player modes. I wasn't really aware this even existed on here, and it's very tricky to pull off. This game does have a lot of strengths on its single player, but it's just so cool to be able to have this with someone else on the couch with you. Game type wise, I've tried to keep this list with games that are kind of top down, twin stick and top down, or at an angle, just like this new Contra game. This one kind of technically is a side scrolling twin stick shooter, but it's because it's older, because it's cheaper, and because it's from such a great indie developer, it definitely has to be on this list. I love it to bits, and a little bit spoiler guys, I'm doing this whole video on my own. I'm doing all the 2-player footage on my own. The regulars enjoy the fails. Yeah, I did put it above Resogun because it's 4-player and because Geometry Wars has a big history with the previous generation consoles and some very, very cool twin stick shooter malarkey going on. It kind of was a trendsetter. And by the way, I know about Robotron and I know about all of the older PC versions of the original arcade that was spawned this genre. This one seems to stick to it like glue. It's really a concentrated single player experience, but you can get involved with the 4-player experience. But if you know the channel and me and my mates, that you've got to factor in the who the hell am I and what am I doing aspect to it, because it's just so crazy. This game is that confident in itself that it doesn't even come over in the correct aspect ratio. Yeah, it is the legendary Nuclear Throne, a game that has very, very easy 2-player co-op, and of course is a dog-hard roguelike with heavy action RPG elements to it. Very familiar if you've all seen it before, typical sort of indie look to it, but it's got a rawness, it's loud, the whole screen shakes, you can turn that off by the way, but it's just so awesome going through these levels, doing these procedurally generated runs, unlocking some insane weapons and killing some really awesome looking monsters. They're kind of like doodle monsters. I love it. I love how ad hoc the whole game looks, but it's deep, very, very deep and huge. This one will last you a long, long time. There's a lot of variation here and huge, huge map sizes. So the second Housemarque game to come up is of course Dead Nation, a video game that has done really well on another list. I go back to it actually, I keep plugging my other lists.
Stop!
But the top 10 zombie games, this was the first one I started with, and it was a big mixed reaction in the comments, and not a lot of people have ever heard of it, and not a lot of people realised that it was a seriously difficult zombie game, and my hell's bells, this is a seriously difficult zombie game.
Checkpoint.
With nods to Romero, with things like 28 Days Later, even Shaun of the Dead, little nods and horror references in this game keep you going for more and more and more to see what level they're going to feature. Is it going to be, you know, a fairground or something iconic from another zombie film? It works very claustrophobically well with 2 players. You get swamped, there's loads of weapons, there's Uzis, there's mines, there's shotguns. It keeps giving this game. It's obviously a bit older and also quite cheap. So if you've never heard of it before, never seen it before, and you love the old twin sticks, definitely have a look at Dead Nation.
Shotgun.
Yes, it's those lovely PixelJunk people, a developer that looks after us very well and have done for a long time on the twin stick or even split screen or couch co-op front. They did the Monsters 2 game, which I reviewed on the channel recently. But this is stunning when it comes to accessibility for anybody, okay? So it's not a taxing game. It's a twin stick that is letting you into the whole type of game very slowly. There's a little bit of shooting. It kind of relies heavily on its puzzle aspects, but it's so polished. The little sprites of the little ships themselves look so good, and the way the physics on the water drips off, and there's volcanics, and there's gas, and there's bubbles in the water. And man, this is huge, and this is like a big addition, so there's loads and loads of content on this particular purchase. I've had it on the channel before, but I love the fact that it's twin stick, it has puzzles, it's got all these cool physics in, and just looks and sounds beautiful. Oh, you bugger, you got this one in early. Well, yeah, I did. Gauntlet Slayer Edition from Arrowhead. That developer's name should ring a very large bell with some people. This often gets overlooked. I don't think that people realise how fleshed out a remake this is, because the original Gauntlet is obviously a classic arcade game, but this one uses that horde mentality, uses that difference in enemy type, and uses hotkeys like a Diablo setup so well. It's such a good twin stick, and it's such a good 4-player game as well. It's a 2-player game. Its footage is terrible. I'm doing this on my own, so I'm using 2 thumbsticks. Can you imagine? I've got 2 pads. Why do you do that, Coop? Anyways, enough about my recording methods. Hyper Light Drifter, you knew it was coming. I own it twice. So great on the Switch. Such a great PlayStation port. And again, the accessibility for the other player to join doesn't even ask. You just pass to say, do you want co-op mode on? And the other person just clicks options on their pad, and they're there, and they help you in combat. They help you with everything. I'm not going to go into too much of the detail on this game because I've just reviewed it for another list. Art style, sound, design, everything perfect. This is a perfect twin stick. Okay, so perfect twin sticks come in the form of a game called Alienation, which is our 3rd or 4th Housemarque game on the list. We're going to lose count, guys, trust me. Stunning visually. I remember getting a 4K TV.
That is a very nice action.
And I put this game, for some reason I was into the game at the time, and I put it on just by default, and my jaw dropped at the colours. This game runs, I think, at a pegged 60 frames per second, but it's just the colours and the physics on the splatter and all the lights and stuff. This is a 4-player game, and 2-player, of course. It's a legendary twin sticker. Legendary twin stickers, I'm going to keep doing these horrible segues, come in the form of Enter the Gungeon. I just got this on Switch, again, massive renaissance on it. I'll tell you why, because they changed the reward algorithm on a lot of the drops on the Switch version. I think they've done it on an update on the PlayStation 4 version, because it just seems that little bit easier. It's a complete roller coaster, this game. You and your friend will fall out with each other. Not 4-player, unfortunately, but a lovely couch co-op 2-player mode. It's very cheeky. It hides the 2-player mode behind a unlock cap, meaning you have to complete the first level on your own and kill the first boss. Now, that might be quite daunting to some people, but remember, it is there. It is a mode, but you've got to do a bit of work in the 1-player. But man, this works on a couch co-op level. Man, this is a good twin stick game. It's such a good Switch release as well. If this is the first time you've ever clapped eyes on it, it's all over my channel. Go and have a look at my playlists, etc. You'll see Enter the Gungeon, Enter the Gungeon, Enter the Gungeon. They're all going to talk about it. That Contra game must be shit in itself. Okay, cue the tension. We're at number 2. There's only 2 more games. There's 2 more games, including this, and this is from Housemarque. This is their last game, alright, spoiler alert. So the next game is not from them. Can't be, because I don't think they've got anything else in their fucking catalogue that I can include in this list. But I want to push how easy it is again on the accessibility, no network required. I love user friendliness when it comes to adding someone. Remember, the person you're adding isn't a gamer sometimes, and they get frustrated if there's a delay, if you don't know what you're doing. So easy on this game. Bang, bang, you're straight in. Stunning visually. This is the Resogun that should have been, a twin stick. It's great to have a true off-kilter, really good arcadey, flashy game from them. It's one of their last games, actually. A real tragedy that studio is not going to operate as big a presence as they used to. They're well famous in my eyes, and a lot of their games were given to us free as well, which was such a great nod from Sony. So, Nex Machina, oh, I love ya. Calm down. It's not the winner. Hotline Miami isn't technically allowed on this list because it's not 2-player, but it is a beautiful twin stick with one of the most luxurious soundtracks ever to be put on a game in the world ever. I have unlimitless love for Hotline Miami and the sequel. I personally think this one's a better game because of its soundtrack. And of course, a dying flip from Housemarque in the form of Matterfall. Again, it's not 2-player, but it is a very strong twin stick. And of course, as you can see, beautiful little platform game as well. That is officially their last release as a game, so go out and get that. It's a physical copy as well. Really beautiful box design, I seem to remember. Yes, of course. Predictable old coupe. You know the drill. But it's incredible, isn't it? Helldivers, one of my first ever PlayStation 4 games, and one of the games that I grounded the whole channel on. It was such a dumbfounding experience for me to discover that not only had this genre survived all that time, but there were new games coming out that were absolutely amazing, and they were sci-fi based, and they were 4-player, and they looked and sounded awesome. And Helldivers was at the front of that queue. It was a game that I have to this day still crave to play. Funny story, I moved countries and most of my physical games are in Dubai, they're in the Middle East, they're in storage and I'm getting them shipped. There's 170 of them and this is one of them. So this footage is from my review of the game in 2015. Have a listen, hold on. They have range, they have melee. So it was kind of a homecoming to look at this game again and actually have to use that footage again and listen to it myself 4 years ago, so that was fun. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Helldivers. I shall see you down there.